Hello and welcome to the Film Ireland podcast. I'm chatting with Virpi Suutari about her documentary Once Upon a Time in a Forest, which screens at Doc Ireland Festival on the 20th of June. So thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks. It's lovely.
Your film Once Upon a Time in a Forest, it's so thoughtful. I think it's so cinematic. It's so beautiful. You're brought into this world of nature where we're looking at it through the eyes of these passionate young people. And then in a way we're brought through the entire complex system of powers that be, of funding, of corporate finance and how all these things are interlinked and those different agendas and even intergenerational conflicts and that difference in thought. And it boils an ocean in terms of ideas and narrative, but it's very quiet and very personal. And I think you've two beautiful, amazing young women at the heart of it. So I just wanted to sort of just say, talk me through your process. So
Well, I certainly wanted to make a film about this generation, this young generation who really work as moral compasses for all of us. And it had made me sad in the past how aggressively people treat the activists here in Finland. But nevertheless, I think Finland is quite a good place to protest. But I think generally the people have so much antipathy and prejudice against the activists that I really wanted to get close to them and show that they are so intelligent, sensitive people who don't go to the streets or to the woods just to make life more difficult for others, that they have a very deep reasons for that. And there is a lot of thinking and a lot of strategic thinking also behind it. And I think the film manages to open up the images that we have about the activists. At least it has worked that way in Finland. I've got a lot of feedback from so-called ordinary people who said before the film that they didn't understand activists at all, but after seeing the film, they feel that they understand them much more, and if they don't understand them totally, but they understand them much more. And I think it's a very good feedback.
at one point you capture is it Minka cry, and I think your
Yeah,
heart goes out to her because you can just see like the disillusionment, like, or the disillusionment like coming on, like you're like, oh, maybe we can make a difference, and you can just see it sort of like them almost being worn away at times, which is
yeah,
heartbreaking.
yeah. It's heartbreaking, and it's that particular moment in the film is very important because Minka dares to ask the sort of silly questions from the forest industry, big bosses. Yeah, they are in the meeting room of one of the biggest forest industry uh, companies and meeting all these big bosses, mainly men. And this is a quite feministic film also, I think. Anyways, but it's very important that the citizens dare to ask these sort of silly questions, because very often people are silenced. If you don't know everything about the subject, you are not allowed to say anything, or you don't dare to say anything. But these youngsters, they dare to ask these basic questions. What is our responsibility right now in the history when we have the knowledge from the researchers what is happening all over the world, but in this film in the Finnish forests and what is happening in the forestry. And the overlogging has been going on for decades, and that is causing biodiversity loss, and the carbon sinks have been lost, and so on. So they dare to ask, what is our responsibility? So that's why I think this generation is so, it's so important for us to listen to them. And like Antonio Guterres, the United Nations secretary, said that the activists are on the right side of the history. So I think we should acknowledge this, that they really are, and they they I think they are hated so much because they remind us about our mental intellectual laziness, and that's why we very often want to reject what they are saying, or we don't want to see them, we don't want to listen to them. But yeah, well, I found these main characters in Extinction Rebellion here in Finland, and they told me about the New Forest movement, and I very soon sort of fell in love with these two female main characters and some other youngsters doing the activism together. And very quickly, I just started to film them, even before the financing was in place. I have produced the film myself, so I just took a little bit risk in the beginning, starting filming without the financing, but I quite soon got the first development funds from the Finnish Film Foundation and some other financiers here in Finland. And then I got a very big grant from one research institute, or it's a foundation, Nestling Foundation. They are mainly financing environmental research, but they can finance also some art projects. And I got quite good financing from there as well. And then I had been filming 1 year already when I went to pitch the project at the Copenhagen Documentary Film Festival. And then I had a chance to pitch it at Cannes Film Festival, where we won a little pitching prize also from Al Jazeera TV network. And yeah, after that, it really I got the financing in place, all the financing. So it went quite smoothly, actually. But in the beginning, one of the first shooting places where we went was in the northern part of Finland. It was an area of the flooding forest. The film begins with the scenes where the main protagonists are on a boat in this forest area where there are these big floods. It's a natural event each spring, and it's such a beautiful, a little bit like apocalyptic place during the springtime, because the flood is inside the forest, and we made beautiful pictures of the main protagonist swimming inside the forest, for example, which is really, for me too, it was amazing moment that a person can swim inside the forest. And there were
Oh,
like thousands of frogs, and the concert of frogs everywhere. And it was really a magical place. And that was really one of the first scenes that we made. And it sort of dictated in a good way the mood that I wanted to get for the rest of the film.
yes, because it's such a personal, intimate moment of women in nature. And that's what I was saying. This is such the cinematic element of the film. It's so sensory, like the snow in different points, the like the landscape. It really is like it instead of just delving into here are our characters, this is what we're doing. You're going like this is a holistic view of why they're doing it. You know, like you're grounding us in that this is why, like this is what they're trying to protect. And it's really powerful and wordless and deftly done and a lovely way to kind of like lure you into the the thing because and I think those moments as well like they're a beautiful reprieve when it is so frustrating what they're met with even the attitudes of the people in their lives that really care at certain points where you're like oh
This was very important element, this physicality, and that is very sensuous and how, as you described it, because I think this new generation's environmental movement has to do a lot with body politics also. And in this film, they are really putting their bodies, in front of the battle, but also how their bodies are emerged to the, is this the right word, to the nature.
yeah, so
They are
submerged probably yeah
intertwined
in it.
with the nature, and it's so beautiful, and it's really the question of very deep forest love. I think this is the love film very much. It's the object of love is the Finnish forest and all the living beings inside those ecosystems. And it was very elemental for me to get this body politic tone for the film. And it has to do with the notion also that we are, as human beings, we are mentally and physically part of the nature. But this is the main problem, that we as humans, we have alienated us from the nature. We are sort of looking at the nature from outside instead of realizing that we are part of that network. And if parts of that network start collapsing, we also collapse. So yeah, this was very, very important for the whole film. And I knew from the beginning that I don't want to make only a political film, even though it's a very urgent, acute issue here in Finland. But I also want to have these more timeless, more poetic elements in the film, and to combine this poetic element with the political and this body politics with the more general politics, forest politics. So I didn't want to make just a typical activist film with confrontations and so on. So yeah, I wanted to have this. I wanted to make it more multi-layered.
And when you found this like brilliant group of young people fighting, did you know immediately it was Minka and Ida, or did you like explore other avenues as you were filming or have other narratives in there? Um,
Well, I quite soon realized that these two characters are really interesting, and interesting in different ways. Ida was surely, she is a little bit like Greta Thunberg type of very focused, very strategic, very young. She was 22 when I started filming her, but very focused on this issue of forest protection. And I immediately saw that she is someone that the others will follow. I know that in Extinction Rebellion there they like to think it as a movement without hierarchies, and they don't like me to say that somebody is a leader or anything like that. But I think Ida has that quality of making the others believe in the cause and to follow what she's after. So I saw that quite soon. And then Minka, on the other hand, is quite different. She was just entering the movement. She didn't know that much about the forest ecology in the beginning. She was sort of just discovering the things for the first time, like most of us. But she has this sort of cinematic quality in how she is in front of the camera. So she really enchanted me by these cinematic qualities also. So it wasn't just that I want to have activists in the film, but I wanted to have personalities that talk to me in different levels. And she's really, I think she has a film star quality.
And
In
you stand going with her through her journey of learning and understanding. And I think it's really, again, I keep saying how cinematic it is, but it's very much so something that works so well on a big screen. And I'm just wondering how you achieve that as you're shooting. Like, do you have like do you sit down with your DOP and go through like this is the aesthetic that I'm going for. Like, do you have everything planned? I know there's so much that you have to capture on the day. How do you get that?
Well, I think this is one of my most direct cinema documentaries that I've ever made. So it's not that constructed that some of my other films. Uh, But in this case, it was essential to get a DOP who is used to work in the nature. And Teemu Liakka, who was the main cinematographer, has made many great nature films, more polished nature films than this one is, and without any human beings. But he is so used to work in the nature and to, patiently waiting for something to appear. So he was really the right person for this one because some of the conditions were quite difficult because in documentaries you don't have a big staff. Like in Lapland when we were there in the fjell, in this small mountain area where the activists were trying to stop the loggings. It was very often like minus 25 degrees. There was a lot of snow. And there is, for example, this scene where Ida is going to the forestry machine and the harvester and stopping that harvester in the middle of the night in a lot of snow. She had skis and she said that, okay, there is nice crust. I can go with skis to talk to the harvester, but we didn't have any skis. So we were in the snow, like it was up to our waist, the snow. And still the cinematographer and the sound person and we were trying to follow in the deep snow and it was very difficult, but we managed to get that scene. And it's a fantastic scene because there is a lot of humor in that scene also, even the matter is serious because she's very politely telling to the harvester that we have started the demonstration here and could you please stop harvesting now and could you please go away. And the harvester and she says that you can take a day off. So it's very funny because the activist tells the harvester that you can take the day off and maybe tomorrow too, and we'll see what happens. So well, we had a lot of situations like that couldn't be pre-planned. Of course, we knew in that scene, for example, that she was gonna go to the harvester, but the actual moment when it happened, it was very fast. We had to act very quickly, and yeah. So I guess in this project, the key thing was to have a cinematographer who was used to work in the nature.
And happy to live in the cold. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh,
And well, most of the scenes are really very spontaneous ones. But for example, there is this beautiful diving scene where Minka is diving with perches and in this lake. So of course it had to be pre-planned. But luckily, my cinematographer was also specialized on diving, so he could do it as well. And yeah, it's one of the most gorgeous scenes, I think. And of course, it was pre-planned, but the idea came from Minka because she likes to do that, and I saw one of her diving uh, trips in her Instagram, and I got the idea from her Instagram post that she was diving someplace, and then we made it one for the film.
Oh, and like it's so visually stunning. And how long did you film for? Like how many, like how much footage did you have coming out of it? What was the time frame?
Well, we followed the protagonist's 1.5 year, and altogether, I think we had 60 shooting days. So, but I don't remember how much material we have.
But again, like you're in very remote places in very extreme conditions a lot of the time. So I would say they're not like, you're like there's a lot of setup and prep and things with those shooting days too.
Yeah, yeah, and of course, when you make a follow-up documentary, some of the shooting days appear later, or you find out later that it was not worth going there, so nothing interesting happened. So, but most of the days were really or ended up in the film. But yeah, it's we were all over Finland in many places, and I guess that uh, Lapland action that they had was the most demanding one because it was so difficult to be there on the right time when the police came, for example. But finally we got it. I went there 5 times with my crew, and the first time we went there, and we had a very long day following the activists, and we knew that the police was coming at some point, but we couldn't call to the police station that when are you coming?
We're on a
So
schedule, guys. They have to break for
yeah,
lunch.
we missed it. The first trip we went, we missed the police because after we had a like a 14-hour day already, and I had to take care of my crew and get them some sleep also. The police came like 1 hour after we left the camp, and we missed it for the first time. But we kept going there, and then we finally got the scene where the police took them.
And
Yeah.
it's a great kind of moment. Like I think it's almost the embodiment of the dismissive nature or the infantilization of the authority figures of these people that are like essentially fighting for their survival. The stakes are that high, where I think one of the police are um um pulling one of the activists along, and they're like, "Oh, I pull my child like this," and
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
like,
yeah,
pat you
in
on
the
the head. It's
snow, in
so
the
kind,
snow.
yeah,
I,
and
I
they're
kind of liked that in this film the police are not aggressive.
they're gentle, but a little bit dismissive though. Like,
Yes, yes, they are definitely. But sometimes they reminded me a little bit the police from Fargo TV series, if you know Fargo.
a
Uh,
similar warm attire.
yeah, kind of. Well, maybe dismissive sometimes, but mostly kind of kind. And I think most of them also think personally that they are on activist side, or they are for those causes, but of course they have to
Do their
perform as
job.
police.
Yeah.
Yeah, do
And
their job, and they have this contradiction, and the same contradiction as most of us citizens have at the moment, because we have all the knowledge, we know what we have been told by the researchers, and those are the facts. And but
but we do and we kind of don't. Like I kind of think it's like the echo chamber. If you're tuning into the slightly like middle of the road politics, or like I kind of, like I kind of if you compare it to say American politics, most like Nordic countries would be very left, but even though, like we'd call it centrist. But like there are people that kind of live there and go, ah, it's not that bad, or it's just oil, and like even I think it was like Ida and her conversations with her granddad. He's like, but we're like, but you can't walk through the forest, and she's like, yeah, but that's the biodiversity. Where there's like he didn't know that, and I think like I mean he's the next generation and the next generation nearly again, but I do think there is that divide where you're not really tuned into it. You're going, oh, housing crisis, or these are our body autonomy. These are our points. And I was like, that would have been very much so on our the millennials kind of charter of this is what we're gonna fight for. But it wouldn't have been as high. And now we've made our way into the system. It doesn't suit us to go like get really annoyed over things. We're going to, yeah, like emotionally, I agree with that, but I don't know that much about it, or I don't know the details of it. Instead of going like, this is my future. I'm going to make it my business to fight and really be informed in it. And I think your documentary does that quite well. And I think much like the police does it in a way that it's very human. Like
Mm.
these are, like you could have presented Ida's grandfather like an antagonist going, and patronizing, but that it is that warm
Yeah.
relationship. And I think that's what's so unique about this film, and it like and a hopefulness I think that permeates throughout the whole thing.
Mm. Well, I'm really pleased you say that because that's the way I like to look at human beings, even though they are forestry big bosses or grandfather who sort of mentally lives in the past and doesn't understand the activist grandchild. But still, there is this warmth and love and respect between them, and it was very important to get those scenes to the film as well. Those grandparents are very important for the film. And especially here in Finland, like I said before, that this forestry narrative has been so strong and almost like propagandist national narrative about our economy and about the necessity of forestry here in Finland. This scene with the grandfather, the past and the future in the same living room, talking together, it was very essential for the film, and that's also it's a window for most of the Finns to reflect on this issue. And well, that really reflects my way of making films and how I like to look at human beings. I don't want to add more contradiction into the world or more aggression. I really wanted to have a hopeful tone in the end of the film, and not just hopeful, but like energetic tone, like this generation is coming and things has to change kind
Yeah.
of tone.
And it does end on a very upbeat note, like not giving too much away, but there's an uptick at the end, like which is lovely. Then like the credits, the title cards come up, and you're like, oh God, you're faced with the grim reality of like, yeah, the apocalypse that we're facing. And I kind of think like I was curious. I think like are you hopeful that change will happen? Like personally, like is is this part of your activism yourself to make the film to try and do the change? But like, do you think it
Mm.
can?
Mm. Well, first of all, it's of course a challenge for a filmmaker to make a film about people who have such a strong agenda. And that was a constantly something that I talked with my protagonists that first of all, I'm a filmmaker. I'm not I guess this is an activist act to make a film like this and to make a film about activists who are shown as real, intelligent, sensitive, beautiful human beings. But still, I reminded them constantly that first, my task is to take care of the film. And I'm a filmmaker and I'm not a teacher or whatever. I'm a filmmaker. Um, but certainly, this is an activist uh, act. Some people call it uh, artivism. Have you heard this term, artivism? So it's like art and activism put together, artivism. So perhaps this is something like that. Well, hope is very difficult word right now, especially that yesterday our government, which is really right-wing government at the moment, made terrible, really bad decisions about our forestry, and because they had to decide how or which kind of criteria they will give to the natural forests. And now it turned out that they made those criteria so strict that they couldn't find anything to protect, especially in the southern part of Finland. And all the researchers, everybody, all the environmental movements, they are really in a shock right now. And this just happened yesterday.
Yeah, it's not a good time for European politics at the moment. It's a
Yeah,
general rule for anything.
it's so awful that they don't listen to the what the scientists are telling us. It's just incredible. But what gives me hope and energy is definitely this young generation and how they work together and how persistent they are. And I think that is their way of surviving also, that they are together. This community gives them so much energy and mental health and everything. So I think that gives me hope that they are not just passive bystanders, that they have really decided to fight for these things, and there are a lot of older elderly people now coming to the forest movement and so on. So well, I guess this is a constant fight, political fight, and fight with those who want to just make big profits. But yeah, it gives me hope that there are people like this, and I think I needed this film personally in order to go back to my young self also, and to think of those times when I was more radical. And I think people of my age, my class, these middle class people, middle-aged people, we really can afford to be much more radical, and we can afford, and I think we have a responsibility to be on the side of the activists. We really have to support them and respect what they are doing. They are doing so much for all of us.
How has it been received? Like, what has the feedback been from, the like activists that watch the film?
Well, it came to the cinema theaters at the end of March, and we did quite a long press tour around the Finland, and some of the activists were with me on that press tour, and it was really heartbreaking in some places to meet the audiences. I've never had so many people crying in my screenings. Well, first of all, there were, of course, environmentalists from older generation and younger generation, and they were they were like hurraying and crying, and so many emotions, and also in some little towns where there is a long tradition of forest industry and pulp factories and so on. The atmosphere in the screening was so touching and so sore and so fragile, and many people said that this film, also the elderly generation, that it gave it gave them feeling that they have been seen. The people who have been environmentalists, for example, in those pulp factory cities. So it was fantastic experience to tour with the film. Though those meetings with those live audiences has been really memorable, and the premiere itself in Helsinki with few hundred people and a lot of activists, they were like clapping in the middle of the film. And it was so crazy. It was so beautiful, fantastic a premiere. I've never had a premiere like that because they were so
Oh.
spontaneous in their reactions, and the activists have taken the film really well, and also some of the higher, some politicians and some people from the universities, and they have organized special screenings um, with the film and special talks. So it has had a lot of visibility here in Finland. It has taken part of the conversation. We've been in all the TV stations, in the morning shows with the activists, and so we did a lot of press. So the film really gave them a platform, at least for a while, in the media, in the main media platforms, main newspapers, television, radio, to say what they have to say. So
And
I'm
that's
happy
so
about that.
important.
Yeah.
But I kind of think, and it's almost like more important, I think, like news informs you and tells you what you're doing, but film like this
Mm.
changes your emotion towards a thing, which I think is that's the thing that really changes your mind. You know, you can pick and there's so much information, you can pick and choose whatever facts to pick whatever to kind of support whatever kind of thoughts that you have about things. But I was like, but I think it's such a kind of quiet, emotionally like beautiful film where you really where it's just absolutely doused in empathy the whole way through that, you know, like you could even be like, I'm right wing, I don't agree with them, but like they seem like lovely kids and I do want well for them. You know, even if, you know, like like it's because it's that it's so empathetic and thoughtful, and yeah, that it changes that, like it can change hearts, which is the first that needs to go.
Yeah, I don't want to give people like answers. I just want to more or less like ask questions with my films and make the people think with their own brains and evoke those emotions. And it was very important in this film to have this feeling of these youngsters, that to show them in a light that one could look at their own children. So like this childlikeness, which is in all of us. And like Ida is a fantastic character because a 22-year-old activist who is a very strategic thinker, very focused, but the next moment she's like a small child playing with the snow, making snow angels in the middle of action. And so it was very important to have these childlike moments in the film, because that's something that is, I believe, you have to be a stone-hearted person if it doesn't touch you. If you don't recognize that child from your own loved ones or from yourself, I think it's very important. And it doesn't mean childish, but the child in all of us. And what really moved me a lot along the way was really the sorrow that this young generation is feeling about the fact that they are sort of preparing themselves already to say goodbyes to so many essential things on earth. So they are already preparing themselves very much for this. They know that there will be so many beautiful places and ecosystems and species that they have to say goodbyes to. The whole film starts with this beautiful song that Minka is singing in the boat, where she's saying goodbyes to certain birds, Siberian jays, to grandmother, and it's I think that little piece of song sort of tells it's the core of the film.
Thank you so much for chatting with us, Virpi. That was such a beautiful film. Anyone who is thinking about heading to Docs Ireland, it's definitely one to watch on the big screen. Docs Ireland will take place in Belfast from the 18th to the 23rd of June 2024. And thank you so much for listening. And if you would like to support the work we do, please like, share and review us on your platform of choice. And make sure to head over to filmireland.ie where you can subscribe to our newsletter and never miss another podcast.